Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 12 of the Name One Player podcast. I typically like to wear just like white or black, a more neutral color because, as we've said many a time, this is not a Minnesota Vikings podcast. But as you can see, I am wearing a Minnesota Vikings jumper, a Minnesota Vikings pullover, hoodie, whatever you want to call it. I guess it's not a hoodie, it doesn't have a hood. But because guess what? Today is a Vikings episode. It is Sunday, it is 2:30, and the Minnesota Vikings finished their game at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. So they finished their game an hour ago. So it is fresh. I have not recorded an episode on a Sunday before. Living in Europe, it was just too late by the time the game was done if the Vikings were playing the first game of the day. But we're not in Europe. We are in Canada. And that was such a really exciting thing of moving back home, was that I could do these episodes at this time. And we are talking about the Minnesota Vikings and the win they just had against the Bears an hour ago. It was messy. It did not go the way that I was expecting it to go. It resulted in overtime, and we won with a field goal. And I don't know how I feel about that. But today we have Cora, who is originally from Vikings Twitter, but we will actually get into that with Cora about our thoughts on Vikings Twitter and if Vikings Twitter is alive anymore. To be honest, I'm not really sure that it is, but we'll get into all of that with Cora. We have Cora on today, and we are going to give our thoughts on the game that just finished. You know, we haven't even really had time to think about it, so you are getting a raw, unfiltered, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think about it. It's fresh. We're not having all day to figure out what we want to say. You're getting our real-time ideas and thoughts and feelings, and we have a lot of them. So we're going to get into that just quickly. Not really much of an update on my life. I haven't really done much in the last 2 weeks since you heard from me last. My last episode with Rachel, episode 11, it was really great having her on and just hearing everybody's feedback about our conversation that we had. Additionally, thank you to everybody who reached out to me about how depressed I sounded. I don't know if you can hear, but I feel like I sound a lot happier and in better spirits than I did the last episode. That was a lot, but I emphasized many times that it was going to be okay, and guess what? It's okay. Everything's okay. Looking back, I think moving from one side of the world to the other side of the world is difficult, and I just was not expecting it to be difficult, but it was. But like I said before, it was going to be okay, and it was okay. But thank you to everybody who reached out and made sure that I was okay. I am okay, and I hope that you're okay too. And I remember saying that the Vikings would be okay, and they were okay. We will get into that further, but they're doing okay, thankfully. They're being their normal selves. They're being their typical stress me out till the final second Minnesota Vikings. So I guess that is an indicator that they're okay. They're their normal self, and I guess that's fine. A win is a win. A win is a win. That's all that matters. But yeah, I mean, we might as well just get right into it. I'm excited to be chatting about the Vikings today. So what's the holdup? Usually I ramble on and on and on. And I know, obviously, you guys love that. You love hearing me talk about nothing for however long my intros are. But I don't know that today we're going to do that. I think today I'm just so excited to talk about the Vikings. So I think that we're just going to jump right in. And today, like I mentioned, we have Cora on, and I actually met Cora. We ended up going to a Vikings game. This was back in the day. Sounds so nerdy to say out loud, but when we had our Minnesota Vikings Twitter meetup at the Cardinals game, I guess in 2022. I don't know if it was October or November, but I remember it was Halloween because I went to Minnesota with devil ears, so that was really fun. But met Cora at that game, met her at Sally's tailgate, which I feel like I meet so many people there, but knew her quite a while before that, just online through Twitter. Cora has always been really supportive, really uplifting. One of the first women that I followed on Vikings Twitter and really showed me that I can be comfortable moving away from when I was hiding my face and pretending to be Will Smith online. No, I was not pretending to be Will Smith. If you've listened to previous episodes, you know that my photo at the time on Twitter was a photo of Will Smith. I was not trying to be Will Smith. I think that's important to note for legal reasons. Will Smith, I was never impersonating you, okay? So, yeah. Took a while before I actually showed my face on Twitter, but Cora was there through it all, and Cora was definitely one of the women who showed me that it was okay to be a woman on Vikings Twitter. So thank you to Cora. Yeah, let's just get into it, Let's just get into our game recap and thoughts on the game while it is still fresh. So everyone, without further ado, please welcome Cora. All right, everyone. So we have Cora here with us. Cora and I were just saying before we hit record that I've never recorded really anything, even this podcast episode or going on other people's podcasts, immediately after the game. Like, what time is it now? For me, it's 2:30. The game ended about an hour ago.
Yeah, the game ended 3:30 here. Yeah, an hour.
So this is... We've got a fresh perspective, which is exciting because, I mean, a lot of the time I try to record on Mondays, but this timing worked out absolutely perfectly because I feel like they gave us a really Vikings-esque game today, and we have a lot that we can say. So yeah, you know what? We'll talk about you. We'll talk about how we know each other, but I think let's just jump into it. Let's talk about the game. What were your thoughts about the game today, Cora? Please tell us.
So, I will say, up until the last 22 seconds of the game, I was sitting there listening to the announcers just talk about how great the Bears were doing and talk about how wonderful Caleb was doing and the defense. Honest to goodness, from the sounds of it, it sounded like the Bears were winning the entire time.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like the Vikings were up by 2 scores at all. So that was frustrating. And they were doing well. And then we were sitting right after they got the touchdown. And I was like, Dan, what if they get, Dan's my husband, what if they get this onside kick? What if they get it? He goes, please don't say that. And I was like, what if they get it? It would be a very Vikings-esque thing to happen. Yeah. And there's a lot of Vikings-esque things to happen. What Caleb Williams has the most yards for a rookie QB in Bears history in a game or something like that. And I'm like, great. Against the Vikings. Cool. We have the first, onside kick this season.
Yes.
Cool. What else is there?
I saw a stat, too, come up that I'm not sure the exact numbers. I know the number for the Vikings was 22, and that's how many games we've won by just one score. And
I think the Bears had 5.
was the most, yeah, and then the Bears were the least in the whole league. And the Vikings were the most in the whole league, and I just thought, this is ridiculous.
How does this keep happening?
I don't know. And I've said this so many times, and I said it again today, that it's a win is a win. I'm happy with the win. It's great, of course, but it's we have these wins that I don't even want to brag about. I don't even want to talk about them. I don't want to be yeah, we won, and they're oh, how was the game? And it's that part.
Let's talk about that.
How were we up 11 points? I think there were 2 minutes left of the game, and then went into overtime and barely won that game.
I was looking at there's a minute and 41 seconds left. There's a minute and 41 seconds left. Why are they going crazy? And I was because they could have won.
This is why. And you know what? I had a moment too, actually watching the game and being you know what? I respect it from the Bears. I think we almost got a little bit sloppy, I guess, the defense, and that's a whole nother thing because I'm not even gonna talk shit about our defense because I do think that they're the reason that we're winning these games. But aside from that, they relaxed a little bit. They thought, okay, we have this game. I saw that they showed a sideline cam of the Vikings coaches, all high-fiving. They were relaxed. And then the Bears scored that touchdown, and I just didn't even really think of the possibility of 2 Vikings players touching the ball on that onside kick. And the Bears commit, what I was going to say too about this game is that it wasn't even well, first of all, I was expecting super easy win, no stress, it's the Bears, whatever. But it wasn't like that. But it wasn't even the Vikings were playing absolutely terribly. Like they also didn't play incredibly either. Like it was a weird
Yeah.
game. It was very mediocre, but at the same time there were some great points, but then not so great points.
I feel like if Aaron Jones wouldn't have fumbled right at the goal line, it would have felt different the whole game.
And what that was like, was that on the first
Our
drive?
first
I don't
drive.
know. Yeah, right
Yeah.
from the get-go. I remember, yeah, they panned to his face and he just looked so upset.
So mad.
And I
So
was
mad.
like, oh no. But he ended up scoring a touchdown,
Yeah.
came
I think,
back,
was that
and
the first rushing touchdown that the Bears have
I was gonna
allowed?
say, yeah. And I mean, even too, just like on our end, when's the last time that we scored a rushing touchdown? It feels like it's been so
Forever. I
long.
mean, I know Aaron Jones was the first one in like a year, but man, rushing touchdowns are few and far between with us.
Yeah, but I mean, good game, I guess.
I mean, I think the defense just thought that they would win in the end, in all honesty.
Yeah,
There were so many like almost, there were so many like almost interceptions, like Van
yeah.
Ginkel. Like he
Hmm.
was so close so many times. And I sort of feel like that's a little bit of our Achilles heel is that we like sell out for the interception. And when we don't get it, it just falls apart.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So
It wasn't like we were completely crumbling. Like they were still keeping it together enough, and I mean, they won the game, so of course that
yeah,
goes to say something. I think they thought that they were going to win, so there wasn't that the game is on the line because they thought
yeah,
they had it in the bag. And then thankfully when the game was on the line, they were able to come out with that win. And I think that is when the Vikings do well with the pressure. And when the pressure isn't there, they just let it go and then
yeah.
get into those positions where they need that pressure, and the pressure is on, which I don't love personally.
Well, and as you were just talking, what I was just thinking about was part of the fact that they're on a 3-game road. They played their last 3 games. This is their 3rd game on the road, which is like almost unheard of in the NFL. The record for teams to win their 3rd game on the road is like super low. So
Yeah.
everyone kind of had this pessimistic idea coming into the game. If you can look this up, please do. When was the last time they played at home?
I think that was the
Yeah.
Lions game, wasn't it?
I think so. And that was a
And we got
long
whooped.
time ago. That was a long time ago. That was like
Vikings
over a
schedule.
month ago, like a month and a
Let's
half.
see.
And how many times do teams have that many weeks away from home?
Yeah. Well, it's been since November 3rd was the Colts played at US Bank Stadium.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah, but still, it
November
seems
3rd.
like a long time. I mean, I thought it was the Lions
I
game.
thought it was way longer
but
than
that
that.
was
I
quite a
forgot
few
the
weeks
Colts were
ago,
home.
yeah.
Just kidding.
No, I
Ignore
mean,
that
no,
little
still.
fun fact. But still 3 weeks.
But yeah, no, I mean, and what, we've won all the last 3 games, yes. What do we think about, well, actually, no, one thing for the Bears still. Yeah, I thought this would be easy win against the Bears, but even from the first couple games of the season, everyone's been talking about the NFC North and including the Bears in the conversation. It's not
Yeah.
just the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers. Let's not even talk about the Bears. The Bears are included when they're talking about how good the NFC North is. So it's like, why did we think, oh, this would be an easy win?
I mean, the Packers almost lost to the Bears. I mean, the Lions didn't, but like the Bears are not an easy team to beat. I went into it and I put us down that we were going to win at the beginning of the season because we have the past, what, 3, this is the 4th, right? 4th game at Soldier Field that we've won.
I
So
believe
we've
so,
won
yeah.
the past 3. And so I was like, okay, I think they can win this. I don't think the Bears, I didn't think it would be as close as it was. I said 24-16.
Yeah, I remember seeing your prediction.
I thought the defense was gonna have a day. Like
Yeah.
I thought my heart of hearts, I thought Harrison Smith was gonna like have a pick six and like
Yeah.
really come in clutch, but they did not. I mean, they did a good job of holding the first 3 quarters and really most of the 4th quarter. But I think they just got a little too excitable
Yeah.
that they were gonna
or-
win and just
yeah,
forgot that they
comfortable,
actually had to
maybe?
finish the game.
Yeah, it was not good. And I mean,
Yeah.
next week we have the Cardinals, then the Falcons, and then we play the Bears again. So
At least it's home.
yes, which will be good. Well, I mean, talking about next week, let's hope I'm not jinxing it. I think that'll be an easy win against the Cardinals. The
I have it as a win.
Falcons, yeah, I think so. Falcons, though, Kirk Cousins game, that is a toss-up. I'm not feeling comfortable either way about that game. If anything, I could see that being a loss. But then thinking about the future against the Bears again, maybe that'll fuel them a little bit if they do lose against Kirk. So, who knows?
Mina Kimes came out when the Falcons played the Broncos. And she was talking about how Bo Nix is going to have a phenomenal game because of the lack of pressure that the Falcons give the quarterback.
Okay.
So, based on that, and based on the fact that like Bo Nix literally had like a career game against the Falcons and beat Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
and
fair enough.
Because of their lack of pressure, I think Sam will get enough time to make plays.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I hope so. I think that sounds great.
I hope they sell themselves out and like cover JJ with 3 defenders and leave open Addison and Hawkinson.
Gosh.
And maybe Oliver will come back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even just this Bears game that just happened, that just finished an hour ago, like Addison had a day. And Jefferson still had a touchdown today. Like, it wasn't like he had a bad game. But I think it was like halftime or something, and he had only had 7 yards or something like that, Jefferson.
Yeah.
Something crazy. So I am so happy that we do have Addison and Hawkinson and, you know, all of these options available to Darnold. That part I feel happy about. But then at the same time, it's like, why is it that defense is the one who is always winning these games? Why aren't we winning with our offense?
Although I would say that the defense is the reason. If we would have lost today, 100% would have been on the defense, because the offense put up 27 points in normal time, and it was the defense that allowed the freaking touchdown and the 2-point conversion. That 2-point conversion. They forgot that there was someone in the end zone, and they all rushed the quarterback. I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
No, that was easy. That was easy. I remember, watching that and thinking like, wow, like if I was a Bears fan right now, I'd be saying like, easy.
Right?
Ugh. Yeah. So weird game, because it wasn't. I think I'm thinking it's just so weird because I was thinking that it would be this blowout, easy win.
It should have been.
I wish it was, but that's okay. I miss the first game of the season when. Who were we even playing? Oh, the Giants. I miss that life when it was like, wow, the Vikings are a team that goes into games and confidently wins and does not stress us out, but
puts the game away. No.
Yeah. That was too good to be true. It was fun while it lasted for 1 week, but
it's very Vikings-esque, and I think I posted on Blue Sky, and I was like, if this comes down to the kicker, I have zero faith in Romo because he's untested. If this comes down to him, like, why don't we try for a touchdown? Why don't we try to get closer? I mean, we got, like, super close. But I was like, why are we leaving this to the kicker? Like, he's untested, and, he's made game-winning kicks, but, like, he's no Will the Thrill.
Yes, well, I mean, I miss Will the Thrill. I hope he's doing well. I hope he's healing up. I hope he's feeling good. But I didn't know much about Romo. I really didn't. But I just heard on the game, and I don't remember what they said, but I caught XFL. And I'm thinking, okay, so we're putting our fate in the hands of a previous XFL kicker. And they said something, like, I think he made the kick, or so. Like, it was a good stat, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But I'm like, okay, great. But you know what? He did it. He won the game, and it was good.
So from what I remember, because JB did a little thing on him on our podcast, and he was talking about that he was on the team and tried out with Will, but since they drafted him and Will outperformed him, he obviously was cut, and then he played in the XFL, and apparently Romo had said that, like, if we ever need you, we'll call you. And so he wasn't like, as soon as he kind of heard, he's like, oh, well, maybe. So the Vikings were aware of him, and he's been in the Vikings, I think, during, like, training camp. Could be wrong.
That's good to know. Because I did hear or read
he
something
was, like, one of the best
that he said. Okay, that makes me feel better. I'm glad that they picked the best out of whatever options they had. But you know what? It's funny. On my fantasy team, I had Will the Thrill as my kicker, so I did need to find another one, and I did not have. Actually, there were some options.
I have him on one of mine.
Well, how many leagues are you doing this season? Wow.
8
Oh
again.
my goodness.
So I'm in two with like Justin Baker. One's a dynasty league, so I don't have to draft every week. And then one's
Okay.
just like a normal one. But then I have like
Yeah.
one that's with my family that like it really doesn't matter. There's no money
Mm-hmm.
involved. It's
Yeah.
like just so casual and like half my family does auto drafts. So I think
Okay.
one year my mom
Okay.
ended up with all of the really good wide receivers. And then my aunt ended up with like all
Nice.
the really good running backs besides the ones you can get in the first and second round because like they
Yeah.
auto drafted. And
That's
they didn't win.
hilarious.
But yeah, it's just silly fun ones like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they're not like super serious leagues. Some of
Yeah.
them.
Well, you know what? This year I'm just doing one, and
That's
it's
awesome.
interesting. You know, being a Canadian also too. Like any leagues that have money involved are quite different because they're usually American. And if somebody's just doing it, it's Venmo, which we don't have in Canada, so I have to send money to my American cousin, and then she does it.
Oh,
It's quite a thing. So I was like, you know what? Don't even really want to do a money league. Like I'm fine just doing it for fun. And also at the time when the season started, I was living in London and I wasn't really sure if where I would be. Thought very well that I would still be watching the entire season in London. So I was like, that changes things too. You don't have the same pulse on the league of what's going
yeah.
on because so many of the games are in the middle of the night and I need to sleep. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just do one of the ESPN ones. Half of the people auto drafted. There is one person though in the league. They're definitely a Vikings fan because they drafted
Nice.
Jefferson first, and their team name is like Darnold is the best or something. So I'm like, okay,
Yes.
who
Let's go.
are you? Are you floating around on Twitter? But actually, you had just mentioned something about Blue Sky, and I wanted to talk about that today because
Yeah.
I haven't made an episode since I had gotten on Blue Sky. And for anybody who doesn't know, I know Cora through Vikings Twitter.
Vikings Twitter.
You were one of the first women that I actually followed, I think, on Vikings Twitter. You
Back
were
when you
always
were
so
crying
friendly.
with
Yes,
what's his face?
with
Will Smith.
Will Smith. Yes, back when nobody knew my real
You were a
identity, and
girl.
yes, yeah, it was almost fun to like drop a photo of myself, and then people would be like, "Whoa, wait, what? You're a girl?" And
Here.
it's like, yeah, real ones knew, but
Yeah.
then we ended up meeting in Minnesota for actually, it would have been the Cardinals game
Was
a
it?
couple of seasons ago. Yeah, it was when they had
Okay.
that huge Viking. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess Cardinals coming up, I guess it's fitting
Perfect
that
timing.
yeah, look at that. I know I have a lot of listeners who aren't even involved in the Twitter world of sports. And
It's
it's
wild.
funny because this podcast came to be with like men being very toxic on Twitter. And now there's this new app called Blue Sky. I hadn't even really heard of it. And we're not going to get too far or too really into politics at all. That's not the point of this episode. But I think it really blew up after the
The
election.
election.
And I mean, I'm Canadian, so our political system is quite different, but there are still a lot of similarities with the way that the people are thinking and all of that. But yeah, Blue Sky kind of popped off, and a lot of people from Vikings Twitter were going there, and I decided to check it out. You were one of the first people on there too who was engaging
So
with
I
everybody
actually
that I saw.
downloaded it in 2023,
No
back when you
way.
needed a code. Yeah, because I was like, oh, I want to get off Twitter. Because first, like, I loved the old Twitter
Mhm.
before. I hate the old Twitter before Elon, but like, it just felt like you could make better connections.
Yeah.
Like, you got to know people a little bit better. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was pre-Elon when we all met. And I just felt like it was
Yes.
way less hostile way
Yeah.
back in the
Oh
day.
yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
like, you could have a conversation with someone without them calling you an idiot, or like
Yes.
without
Yeah.
trolls coming into the comments. And like,
Yeah.
or the trolls that came in were like not aggressive. They were just
Mm,
obnoxious.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Ross
Yeah, it's so
DaCosta.
true. Yes. Yeah, how's Rasta doing?
Yeah, right? So I felt like it was
Oh.
just, that's what Blue Sky feels like. It feels like
Yeah.
the beginning of the Elon Musk era, or pre
Mhm.
that, because I just don't feel as aggressive on there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have
Yeah.
to go into the app every time and feel like I'm defending myself. Or I can
Totally.
just post something out there and it gets way more engagement on Blue Sky than it ever would do on Twitter. And like I don't have a huge following by any means. I have like 2,000 on Twitter and I have like 500 on Blue Sky. And I get
Yeah.
way more conversations
Yes.
on Blue
Yes.
Sky than I ever
Yes.
do on Twitter unless it was a political,
Yeah.
then it would just pop off.
Yeah.
Either side, like if I was disagreeing or agreeing, it would just like explode. And
Yeah.
now Twitter made me like angry.
Yeah.
I scroll Blue Sky and there's like pictures of the moon
Yes.
or like,
No, I follow that account too. I love it. It's one of my favorites.
or like the Northern Lights pop up a lot. And there'll be times on Twitter when it's like a pleasant scroll,
Yes.
but it doesn't last very long. And I don't know if it's because of the people who are like, because you can buy your account or you can like get certified or verified or whatever. And then your tweets get pushed, right? So no matter who you follow or whatever, all your verified people you follow get pushed to the top. So it could just be people that are being a jerk or it could be normal people. But like on Blue Sky, it's truly your algorithm. It's truly what you want to see.
Yeah, everything that you said, I completely agree with. Like, it's Twitter. I mean, I got on there late in the grand scheme of things in comparison to a lot of people on Vikings
I was on Twitter. I've been on Twitter since 2009.
Yes.
I had to make it in
you're an
for
OG.
high school.
Yeah.
Way back in the day, my
way.
high school teacher was like, let's all get a Twitter so we can tweet at each other how our internships are going.
Okay, so you've been there. You remember how Twitter was. To be fair, I remember my like personal Twitter, which I don't consider it anymore. I don't even really have that one. I remember I made that probably around 2009 to tweet the Jonas Brothers like every day, every single day, like
Amazing.
at Nick Jonas, like
Amazing.
spam the hell out of them. But Vikings Twitter, it's been a couple years now, but it was fun. There were definitely still people on there that made it not fun, but it was a lot easier to mute them, to block them, and just have it go away. But I did notice, in the last year and a bit, it's just been not fun to go on.
Yeah.
And I would always say, like, oh, I'll always have content for this podcast because there's always people on there just saying the most insane things regarding women who are talking about sports. But that's just on Blue Sky, everybody's nice, everybody's kind. It's thankfully I haven't had to experience anybody saying something not nice to me, but on Blue Sky you make it so easy for them to just go away. And you just don't see it. Like, I know on Twitter, like, you would be blocking people and then you would still be able to see their tweets, and it's like, what is the point of that?
What's the point of this?
Exactly. Like, it really does seem like Blue Sky has a big emphasis on, I was going to say, like, one, safety, but then also just, like, your mental health. And scrolling through the app, it really does seem like they want to make it a positive experience for their users. And so far it is.
Yeah.
I like it.
And I'll say, like, I usually, like, when I was on Twitter, I'd get into, like, a doom scroll way more on Twitter rather than when I do on Blue Sky. And it could just be that there's not as many people on Blue Sky and
that's very true.
Whatever, or I don't entirely know, but like when I get on Blue Sky and I'm reading through things or whatever, it's way less tunnel vision. And I can like jump away easily or be like, oh crap, you're right, I've been on this for 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes, where like Twitter was like, oh my gosh, it's been 15 minutes already. I gotta get off.
No, definitely. And talking about the Vikings, it is nice to see so many people from Vikings Twitter have migrated to Blue Sky.
And a lot of the beat reporters, I think they're all on Blue Sky. And
which
they
is
all engage.
Amazing. Yes, right? And it's so much easier to engage with them. And again, maybe just because there's less people on, they're maybe able to see their replies a little bit easier than they were on Twitter because they had so many more followers on Twitter, or so just more users on Twitter. But just tweeting about the game, like, people were positive. And I mean, I have tweeted many a dooms, like, I hate the Vikings, like, this is the worst team ever. But I think it was just such a negative place, and I'm sure I we'll probably tweet a not nice thing about the
Yeah,
Minnesota Vikings on blue, or yeah, what are we calling them? Skeets? Or
I guess
whatever they're
so.
called.
I still call
uh,
everything tweets, and I still
I
call
know,
the old
right?
Twitter Twitter. Like, I don't think
Yes,
I'm
of
ever going to get
course.
away from tweets.
But just talking about the game, like, it's just so, everybody on Blue Sky is just so positive about it. It's
Yeah,
not 1 minute in and we're like, oh, I hate the Vikings. The season's
yeah.
done. Like, it isn't any of that anymore.
It's like
I think,
constructive comments.
yeah, like really interesting about the game. A lot more to of things that I saw, just like helpful stats, helpful little things that I wouldn't normally see. I think that actually is a really good point about the beat writers. I think a lot of that would get hidden on Twitter. I think probably just from everybody being like, wow, I hate the Minnesota Vikings. This is the worst team
Yeah,
ever. And now I actually see some like helpful things that make me think about how the game's actually going to turn out. So I'm loving it.
yeah. I really like it. I still have my Twitter. I still am on there a little bit. I still tweet every once in a while, but even in the comments sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna retweet something, say something, and then Blue Sky is honestly where I do the most of my
Yeah.
engagement because people engage back and they're not
Yeah,
jerks.
totally. Totally. Yes.
It's
Yeah.
so pleasant.
Yeah, the back and forths that that I've had on Blue Sky have been positive, fun, enjoyable. I
Yeah.
close my phone not angrily. Like it's great.
Yeah.
What I will say though that Twitter was so great for was just connecting with other women in the
Yeah.
sports community. I haven't had as much of that on Blue Sky, but I mean I've really only had it for a few weeks now, haven't
Yeah.
really looked too hard. So I'm hoping that I can,
I
connect
think
with some other women from other teams.
once it probably starts going, do you follow
Hmm.
Amina Kimes on Blue
I
Sky?
do. Yes,
Okay,
I
she
do.
creates a lot of starter packs and she
Okay, those are
tweets
really
out a lot of
helpful.
the NFL, yeah, starter packs. The
Yeah.
coolest thing ever. So like
Hmm.
if you come over from Twitter to Blue Sky, you can find someone and they could have had like created a Minnesota Vikings starter pack. And it's just like
Yeah.
a whole bunch of people that you should follow, like the Vikings, the beat
Yeah.
writers, Kevin Seifert, and it was just kind of like the first people to come on the scene, and then you can all follow them. And I think
Yeah.
once it starts to get going, there'll probably be like starter packs for like women in football.
Yeah.
That's what I would
Well,
imagine
maybe
would
we should
happen.
make one. Maybe I'll do that tonight.
Yeah, do it.
see
Do it from
see
your
who I can
podcast.
find. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe I'll do that. That's a good idea.
I'll share
Yeah,
it.
we'll find. Yeah, you'll be number one on the list, but we'll find some others because I'm sure they're out there, but I think it was just
Yeah,
so much. Again, I think just the amount of people on Twitter compared to the amount of people on Blue Sky, but I
yeah,
completely agree. Once we get more people on Blue Sky, I think it'll be easier to connect with them.
yeah. I agree. I agree.
But I do want to say this is a good segue. So I actually think with the whole situation, with the way that this podcast started, was when there was that trend of posting 4 pictures of yourself.
Yeah,
And I love that. Like I mean talking about that's how I connected with so many women who were in different fandoms because of that trend. But that's kind of how this podcast came to be because there was somebody just online saying something stupid about women who
yeah,
love sports and glad that we were able to make something positive about it. And I would actually really love to never see anything like that again. So that would be great if on Blue Sky we never have any issues with it.
that would be great.
But yeah, it really would be, wouldn't it? But something that I like to ask all of my guests is the name of the podcast, Name One Player. I know so many women have had many instances where you start to talk about the team that you love and you just kind of get hit with the, oh, really? What do you know? Like, can you just name one player? Which drives me nuts, but
Yeah,
you know what? We can make fun of it now. It's all good. But I love asking anybody who comes on here if they have any experiences or just really, really anything about a time that you've been made to prove that you love the teams that you love.
I will say my personality is I just tend to like word vomit at you. Um,
Mm,
so a lot of times when I'll say like, "Oh, I'm a fan of the Vikings. Did you watch the Vikings win?" or something along those lines, you'll get that
mm-hmm,
look of like, "Oh, really?"
mm,
And then I'll just like word vomit of what happened, actually dropping names and actually dropping plays, and they're like, "Oh." she might know actually more than I do.
I
And so
like
I've
that.
actually had that more than
Don't
I've
even give them the
had.
chance. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even give them a chance to question me. And
Yeah.
then also on Twitter, a lot of the times I'll have a picture with Dan and I. And so most people
Mm.
think I'm a guy. Like, honest to goodness, most people think I'm a guy on Twitter. There was
That
a Packers
is
fan that was like in my
absolutely
mentions
hilarious.
about, I don't even remember. He was in my mentions about something and I don't even know. And he had commented on a person from Yankees Twitter because she was like, I miss baseball. Like, I need a football team to root for. I was like, you can always root for the Vikings, even though they're probably going to like break your heart. Do it anyways. And he had commented something about how like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. You should become a Packers fan or something like that. And the girl was like,
Okay.
okay, that's a girl and she's my friend. And he goes, oh, my bad. But I can't tell you how many times people on Twitter have assumed I'm a guy.
That's hilarious. That is so true. Because, yeah, your picture is you and Dan, your husband, right?
Yeah. And so that's a large
That's
reason why
so
I don't change
funny.
it is because
Mm.
I get the assumption that I'm male. So I don't get those comments.
I mean, I have, there was such a major difference from when I went from Will Smith to myself.
Yeah.
And it's sad and really it kind of emphasized why I went with Will Smith instead of a photo of myself from the get-go. But that's okay. You learn to make something positive out of it.
I had one where it was just of me. But like when I went from just one to me and then to Dan and
Yeah.
it was the comments you would get were way less condescending and a little bit more of constructive conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just the vibe of it was way different.
yeah,
And I think like that's the reason why I never changed my profile picture away from Dan and I, because everyone just
yeah,
would assume if I'm commenting on football stuff that I'm a guy.
yeah.
And I always thought it was hilarious.
Thank you for sharing that. That's such a crazy point because, yeah, it's so true. And again, going back to Blue Sky, like, I would love it if every single woman can be like, no, I've never had any instances. Like, everybody's very accepting and nobody ever questions it, nothing like that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the future with Blue Sky.
Hopefully.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, maybe we'll get a bunch of, how old do you need to be to go on Blue Sky? I don't know. I don't want to say 12-year-olds,
No.
but people on there, and
Like,
it's just a new generation, and men aren't going to be acting differently if you're a woman tweeting about sports, whatever it may be. So who knows? Maybe things are moving in the right direction.
I will say I have had like two just snarky comments of people who are just being like jerks to instigate something on Blue
Yeah.
Sky. And
Yeah.
then
Oh, on Blue
like I'll
Sky.
just,
Interesting.
yes. But they're like
Mm.
brand new accounts. So I'm assuming it's someone and they don't have a
Mm.
profile picture, like their name isn't
Mm-hmm.
something that I would recognize. But like it got zero traction. There were no
Yeah.
arguments in the comments. And like I muted them and moved on. And
Yeah.
there was that was the end of it. I didn't engage and no one engaged. And so it's like it's very refreshing.
Yeah. Well, it is funny to me, again, not to make this political at all. That's not the point, but the people who are complaining, like, they go back to Twitter and they'll be like, I went on Blue Sky and nobody engaged with me.
I
It's
wonder
like,
why.
well, what were you saying?
Like
Were
it
you
just
being friendly and having, a fun, open, intellectual conversations with people,
yeah.
or were you saying some not nice things? Hmm.
Yeah. And like I don't know if it's because it's the election cycle here, but I feel like everything was political.
Oh
Like
yeah,
and
yeah.
I have a poli sci minor. Was
Hmm.
close in college to having a major. Like I love politics. I've been involved in politics. When Obama was first getting elected, my mom worked on the caucus in our home city. And like
Oh
we
cool.
went to his rally. I wasn't old enough to vote for him, but like I went to his like rally in Minneapolis. So like I
Yeah,
have been involved and aware of politics. I have voted in every single election. And
yeah.
so like I've been involved my whole life of politics. But like that's not my personality. And I feel like on
Hmm.
Twitter it just was like every single comment or
Yeah,
every tweet there was something that was making it political. I think that's a large reason why the Vikings beat writers came to Blue Sky is because
yeah.
everything was a
Yes.
doom on their post because of COVID.
a
And
hundred
so like,
percent.
oh, well, were they vaccinated? Or like, you're just an
Yes.
idiot for believing all these things. And it's
Yes.
like let's just talk about the Vikings.
Yes, that's 100% it. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's like too, even me too. Like I do try to keep politics out of talking about sports. It's like, what's the point? Like we don't need that. I'm the same way. I love politics. I do love talking about politics, but when it becomes like everything that you
Everywhere.
talk about when you just want to talk about some sports,
I
it's
know.
exhausting. And like you mentioned before, it got aggressive. Like it got aggressively talking about politics, and in a way that I don't align with. It was just too much. Not fun
Yeah.
anymore. I want to hear a little bit about your podcast because it's a little bit newer too. Am I correct
Yeah.
in that?
Yes.
Yeah, so tell me about that. How did that come to be?
So JB reached out. He had reached out to, I think, like one or two other people to do a podcast. So he's done
Mm-hmm.
two podcasts in the past. And then he's like, I want to get back into it. And he is probably the kindest, most wonderful person. The more you get to know about JB, the more you learn to like, holy crap, he's like such a good person. He's
Oh,
so
that's
nice.
so sweet.
He writes Santa cards for
Oh,
kids,
no, that's too nice.
right? He makes popcorn, and to pay him, you have to donate to an organization.
That's so sweet.
He's the most wonderful person, but he also has like a really cool, he knows a few people in the NFL networking world.
Yeah.
He worked for like the Yankees, their
Okay.
minor league team. So him and Dan just hit it off. Anyways,
Yeah.
so he wanted to get back into podcasting and he reached out to one person and she said no, that she was doing something else. And then he reached out to me and he's like, do you and Dan want to be on a podcast? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I would love to have a married couple perspective. And I'm like, I don't know if you want a
Yeah.
married couple perspective, but like, okay, let's do it. So we just started it. There's like one episode
Hmm.
in June, two in July, and then we started in August
Nice.
just to
I
get like our
love
feet
that.
wet and stuff. Yeah.
And you're having fun with it?
Oh, so much fun. We have three main well, we have a couple main segments. So we talk about the game. We have stars of the game, our X factors, which I am awful at picking. And then we each have our own segment. So my segment is
Hmm.
called Cora Gets Defensive because
Mm.
I love defense and it's my favorite aspect to the game. John has a segment and it's called Valhalla Back where he
Okay, yeah.
will go back in time and talk about a previous Vikings game. And it's usually like this week he went back and like, I can't remember what the game was, but I think it was from the 2000s. No. 1993. It was a Bears Vikings game from 1993.
Okay.
And then he'll like do a play by play. It's the coolest segment. It's so awesome. And then Dan follows the career bonus.
Nice. I love it. I love
So
it.
it's super fun. We have a really great time with it. We usually always end up talking about food at the end because we all love food. It's really great. I think last week was the most people, we go live every week on Tuesdays. And I think
Yes.
last week was the one where we had the most people on.
I
So
love
that was
it.
super, super fun.
You haven't mentioned the name yet because I love the name.
It's called Three Blind Vikes.
I
Ah,
love it.
that was my favorite of the multitude we had. And JB's like, well, we should take to Twitter and see if who likes what. And I was like, I think I sent in group messages. I was like, vote which one you like, but this is my favorite.
No, I think the name
So
is genius. I
yeah,
absolutely love it. And
yeah.
I have listened. I think you guys sound incredible. It does sound like you're having
Thank
so much
you.
fun. And I
Oh,
think
it's a
too,
blast.
like that's how it comes across. You can tell when people are just there enjoying what they're talking about. It makes such a huge difference.
And I mean, I just love spending time with Dan. He's like my person. So it's even more fun that I just get to like hang out with him and talk because he's a new
Aww.
Vikings fan. He's not like an old
Mhm.
Vikings fan like John and I. And so
Mhm.
he gets the heartache, gets it, but he doesn't understand the heartache because he was a Cowboys
Doesn't
fan before
understand
this.
how deep it goes. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I guess then maybe he does.
Well, but the Cowboys were good up until he
Yeah,
switched.
okay. Right. So he was
So
there
like
a while
he's
ago
seeing a
then.
Super Bowl.
Then yeah, well,
Yeah.
welcome Dan. You
Yeah.
I'm
Welcome to the
glad that you
heartache.
converted him though. That's really important.
Yep. And I think I can't remember if he was a fan. It got to a point where I was a Vikings fan, he was a Cowboys fan. He's a Yankees fan, I was a Twins fan. And he's like, we can't have a divided household for everything. I was like, I am not giving up my Vikings fandom. So you can be a Cowboys fan, but I'm not giving that up. And he's like, okay, well, I'm not giving up my Yankees fandom. So I was like, okay, I'll become a Yankees fan, but you have to be a Vikings fan. So we are
That's
all in.
hilarious. Compromise. That's the
Yeah.
secret to a healthy marriage, it sounds like.
Yeah. We are all in on the Yankees and the Vikings. Could care less
That
on most
is
other sports teams,
hilarious.
but Yankees and Vikings,
I
man.
love it. And then, so you said Tuesdays though. So what time do you guys go live?
8:45 Central Time.
Nice. Okay, so
Occasionally,
everybody
if we have a
listening.
guest that comes on, we'll cater it to them. Like I think we had Luke Brown on, and I think we had Luke Brown and Dustin Baker on, which have been my favorite. And
Oh, fun.
Lindsey Young is also one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lindsay's
we've had some
amazing.
really
All of
good
them are
ones.
amazing.
It depends on how long they can stay. Lindsay, I think, said she could only stay for 20 minutes, but I think she ended up staying for like a half hour. No big deal. Depends on if we have a guest when they can make it, and then usually it's 8:45 because
Okay.
we got to get ours.
Amazing. Well, yeah, true. Well, everybody should check that out.
Yes, please do.
And I'm excited for you guys to continue. It's just so fun.
Yeah, we have so much fun with it.
Yeah, okay, well, I think that's essentially it for us. I've
Yeah.
had such a blast with you on. Thank you so much for coming on. And
Thank
again,
you for
so fun that we
having
were
me so
able to
much.
do it. Of course, so fun that we were able to do it so close after the game,
Yeah.
too, and barely even had time to think about it. And we just had to give our true thoughts.
Yeah. I will say this podcast made me feel better about our win because I'm now leaving like a pleasant conversation.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Yeah. Because right after the win, I was like, what the hell was that? And
I
now
know.
I'm like, okay, no, we won. We won. It was a hard game. The Bears played well, but we still won.
Yeah, we did.
And I look forward to seeing your, again, I'm just going to call them tweets. I know that's the wrong word.
Yeah.
On Blue Sky next week with the Cardinals. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. Oh my gosh.
All right. Thank you so much, Cora.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Cora for coming on. That was such a great conversation. I always love doing Minnesota Vikings episodes, obviously. I have said many a times that this is not a Vikings podcast, but every time I do a Vikings episode, it makes me want to just have a Vikings podcast. But I still love, talking to women from all over the league, all over different leagues. So I do need to start doing that. I need to start mixing it up a little bit more. We had a good mix at the beginning, but we're really getting locked in on the NFL, which, I mean, to be fair, I have thought about just turning this into an NFL podcast, but, I still love chatting with the gals about all the other sports, and yeah, so we're just going to continue. We're just going to figure it out as we go along. That's all this is. But for today, thank you so much to Cora for coming on. I always have such a great time chatting with you, so thank you for providing your insights on the game today. Everybody be sure to tune into Three Blind Vikes every Tuesday. Yeah, I think that's really all from me. Usually I ramble at the end of this, but to be honest with you, I'm kind of just like, yeah. Also, again, thank you to everybody who reached out from the episode from 2 weeks ago now, from Rachel. Always so nice hearing your feedback. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who just reached out and just made sure that I was feeling okay with the move. We are doing much better, as mentioned before. And yeah, just excited for what's to come and excited to do more episodes. But I'm just gonna go enjoy the rest of my Sunday and ride this Vikings high for as long as I possibly can. So I hope everybody has a good rest of their week. I imagine you'll be hearing from me on Friday-ish, hopefully. And yeah, all right. Well, thank you and bye.